All right, today I will be interviewing Benjamin. He have a book out called The Book of Benjamin, and I'm going to be interviewing about his book. And so, thank you so much for having being on this interview. Thank you for having me. How are you doing today?
Great, doing great. It's an honor. I want to thank you for the invite. I'm really excited and looking forward to sharing my story with you.
Thank you so much. All right, all right, Whew. All right, guys. Today I will be interviewing Benjamin. He have a book out called The Book of Benjamin, and I want to go inside. I would like to introduce to you this amazing guy and what he has been through, and we're gonna hear his story. Can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Benjamin BigmouthBen Graham, and as we go on in the interview, you'll find out how I came up with the name BigmouthBen. I'm currently in Atlanta. I'm a business owner along with my lovely wife, Tanya Graham. Um, we're located on Auburn Avenue near the historical King Center in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. Thank you so
Yes,
much for sorry, go ahead.
yes, yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for that intro. Before that, I don't know if you know the law of attraction, but my main two I want to impact is the special education because special education I was labeled as special ed, right? And I found out that through reading books it changed my life. So can you because I think that too many often people think that school is the way and that people think that's the only way to become successful. So, why did you write the book of Benjamin and what message are you trying to convey? And you have a very unique, interesting story to tell. And, I look at your website. What really did happen?
Um, the role I wanted, the goal I wanted to accomplish with the book is to encourage people, let them know that no matter what we go through in life, if we seek that spiritual foundation and build upon it, that we can overcome many things. And I titled it The Book of Benjamin because it was that spiritual awakening. I was at my lowest point in my life, sleeping under a bridge, strung out on drugs. I just felt hopeless, and felt like nothing. And upon the spiritual awakening, I was able to turn it around and start moving forward. So that story and give hope to the reader, and also allows the reader to understand that our spirituality is what we can build upon, and that is how we live our dreams.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You said you were spiritually awakened?
Yes.
Yes, so was I. I was spiritually awakened and I had the same story where I was going through some chaos in my life and I needed to find, I didn't know who I was. Can you tell the deeper story of what happened in your life? Because I saw on your website, it's much.
Mhm. Yeah. Are you referring to the childhood traumas, those events that took place early in life?
Um, I would say there where I said the accident.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of my life-threatening injuries was I was working on the back of a garbage truck. I'm not, you're familiar with the guys that ride the back of the truck. And I was working on the back of the truck. The truck was going in reverse while I was standing on the back, and he backed me into a dump truck. And if I step back, I don't know if you can see it. The injury crushed my pelvis. The only thing that was intact still was the spinal cord connecting the top and bottom. So my pelvis bone had been crushed, and through surgery, I had a bar inserted to connect my legs. But that injury put me in a wheelchair, and I was confined to that wheelchair for about a year. But never giving up and keeping that determination and spirituality, spirituality is so important. I was able to turn it around and gain strength again and start walking.
Did it build? Did you build faith, or how did it? How can you? For those people who are having a tough time and they're probably in a worse situation, how can they build that mental strength that you have and you start to uh, walk again? And people would consider that a miracle. Like, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I consider it a miracle as well. And it's funny you asked that. Just the other day, we were cleaning out our attic, and I came across a box of papers that was dealing with the injury, the hospital records, and also in that box there was notebooks, maybe about 7 to 8 notebooks that were journals. So what I every day I wrote a letter. I journaled. I talked about how I felt, and I spoke to my higher power. I journaled to a higher power, the Creator, God, and I just said that I'm here, I'm in pain. The doctors say that I may not walk again. Whatever I was feeling, I put it in that paper, and just the other day I was able to go back and read through those and just saw that I had this determination, but I think that increased faith came from just that journaling, writing down how I feel, and definitely communing and moving forward on that note.
Right. Right. You're into spirituality. For you, what is like a whole sense of spirituality? Like, people think spirituality, associate with religion. Now,
Mhm.
I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. I used to be Buddhist, but I'm not
Uh,
anymore. But so, what's your idea of spirituality
my
to you?
my view of spirituality is I believe in Christ. I am a Christian. I grew up in the church. My spiritual foundation. I think my spiritual seeds were planted early in life. I grew up in a holiness church, and I, like yourself, I'm not religious. I don't go by. Um, I don't think God intends for us to follow certain instructions. To get where He's at. The kingdom of God is within us, and I think that it's important that a person knows that God is within them. I think that we all hold the Spirit of God. I don't think we'd be alive if we didn't. I think the breath that we breathe is free. Knowing that note, we have to I think that we can go inside and we can talk. And that's what I think a lot of people are confused, or some people are bitter because they probably sought religion and somehow it let them down. Somehow somebody told them that this is the way to God, or if you don't do it this way, you won't ever meet Him. And I think that a lot of us tried. We've tried several things, but it's we're looking everywhere, and He's right there within us. We just have to kind of just look within.
Yes, thank you so much for. I do agree with what you say. So many of us, most of the religion, they separate, right? They separate who we are as a human being. Like you said, we're the kingdom within us. The kingdom of God is within us, right? That is so
Right,
true. If you study the ancient philosophy of the Hermetic principles, right? And the as within, as without, as above, so below, right?
right.
And so my message is, how like people would like try to search a good life when they die. You know what I'm talking about? When
Uh-huh.
they go to heaven. But I feel like heaven is where you create within your mind. It's now, not
Right.
later. If you want the good life, I know that you're trying to get your message out there because I saw you have the list. You're a speaker and you do a whole lot of good things in the world. Because I was reflecting that usually people who have this a sense of profound purpose in life, they either gone through a tremendous pain or drama somewhere in their life that it had to do with them, right, inside their heart, and they either went with a loss with their loved one, or something happened with themselves. So they see that there's so much pain, and that they want to do good for the world. Is it true for yourself?
It's very true. It's very true. I look back over my life, and there's some regret. I struggled with the 17-year drug addiction. Part of me feels like I wasted a lot of time in life, with the drugs. But also, I'm very grateful for the exposure of what I've gone through. It gave me a more compassionate heart. What's to say what type of person would I be had I made all the right choices and, became successful? I might have been somebody that didn't understand addiction. I might have been someone that didn't understand poverty. If I made all the right choices and gained wealth, my view might have been that all you have to do is make right choices. So the pain that I received was very instrumental into where I'm at today. I'm very grateful. I am humbled, and so no matter what comes my way, is whether it's success or challenges, I know that God is in control. So I'm like I say, pain in our journeys. I like to say, people say, we take a mess and make it a message. So I've took my mess and it's become a message. So a lot of times, you're right. Most people that have found purpose have gone through something.
Yeah, thank you so much for that beautiful story. Uh, who do you look up to for entrepreneur?
Mhm. What was that?
Who do you look up to for entrepreneurship?
Um, I have a variety of people. You're saying who I look up for
Entrepreneurship.
entrepreneurship? I do a lot of reading. I read the articles, and I meet different people in different fields, and I have a few associates that I call upon, and just try to learn as much as I can.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So what type of books like you go into? Like, what do you read?
I read the most now. What I've been reading lately has been books dealing with the mind, books dealing with our brain, our psychology. It's really important to me. I'm going to take a training next month for to become a certified addiction specialist, because I really want to learn more about the mind and our whole thought process, so that I can better help people and better minister to people. If I can identify someone that's struggling with depression or someone that's struggling with addiction, and I kind of know the signs, I know a little bit about motivational interviewing or some things that I can help them along the way with, I'm all for it. So most of my reading now has been dealing with emotional intelligence and addiction. Those are my main reads right now. And of course, I'm reading up on my field here at the store. We own a convenience store, so I'm staying on top of the news there.
Okay, thank you. I was when you say you were, store. I was thinking about how does it feel to be a business owner in a bricks and mortar? Because we live in the e-commerce world, and with the social media, and with the how does it really like feel? Because I want to. Is it like like hard to operate? How is it your world like?
Yeah, it's it's a little challenging. We you see that the future is moving towards e-commerce, and being here, we rely a lot on walk-in traffic. So if they're not walking in, we get a little concerned. But for the most part, I'm grateful to have a business, and the business is 2 blocks from where I slept. There's a bridge 2 blocks from this store that I slept under for years, strung out and defeated. And so, just sometimes I sit in the store and I begin to cry, because of the journey, just realizing that I set out and I've accomplished so much in just the last 5 years of the freedom from addiction.
Right. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
I was listening to your story. Isn't it true that without pain or what we went through, we would not understand people like where they come from, right? It would be very hard to connect with a human being. You know what I'm talking about? Like where if
Yeah.
people just not have any like, you know, is usually like this pain or what we went through, the suffering, connect with each other much more deeper, profound way. Do you think that would be like true as your case?
Yeah, for the most part, that is true. You know, if we hadn't kind of walked in a person's shoes, it's hard to pass. It should be hard to pass judgment, but unfortunately, it's not. A lot of times, people will say, "All we need to do is pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and go to work, or just get up, or just say no." You know, all these wonderful cliches that we hear often. But I think that we are obligated, like people that understand, people that have purpose. And that's the reason why I speak often and share as much as I can, is because I want to bring awareness to the disease of addiction, awareness of homelessness, because people will look at myself and they will say, well, this is the potential for someone that is currently struggling. You know, that at any given time they can heal and they can move forward and they can become a productive member of society. So, you know, my goal is to continue to bring awareness to that so that people won't have to guess. You'll know, you know, just by bringing awareness. But like you say, if you walked in them shoes, and you can identify more with the person that's going through the pain. And a lot of times too, when I speak in treatment centers, people are more apt to listen and pay attention because they know that I've been there. So they can relate to me because I once struggled as well.
Right. What I'm like trying to get the message out there where too many people care about the facts and the figures, right? Like when
Yeah.
because there's a young guy who I see, he couldn't connect me in a way, right? Because he didn't, you know, because he's I don't know if you know Bob Proctor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Say it
so
again.
yeah, Bob Proctor. You know Bob Proctor?
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was mentored by him, but he was
Oh
a
wow.
young he was mentored by him, but um he didn't connect me in a way that make me feel like a connection because he didn't, you know, I think I come from a background of no connection. I have no connection at all. I come from a background of poverty. I didn't have any. I hated life back then. I was bullied. Um,
Mm.
uh, I got I skipped school. I got kicked out of high school for skipping school. I get into fights. I was class clown. So when he bring that into a mindset of he had connection, he all that, it didn't really relate to me because my point is if we're in order to connect with a person you have to be able to relate to a person's heart, to what they've been through. You can't just say all good, all the stuff that people like do motivational, and you have to like reach here,
Right.
and
Exactly.
and I think that's the missing key. Like, because every time when I tell the story of how I've been through, it touched people's heart. It should be able to touch people's heart to reach them. Because if you try to not, relate to them, you can't like reach them. You know what I'm talking about?
Exactly. I see it all the time. You know, the high powered speaks and gestures and and all that. But if you don't have that connection, you're absolutely right.
Yes,
Yeah.
and thank you so much. I feel like for people, because I was sitting there, because why I do interviews like yourself, and I want to be able to connect with people that people have suffering, but they do amazing things, right? And I want to be able to change people's life through perspective, right? Because perspective give people hope, meaning, so they can live. There's so many people who are not into self help, but they need that in their life.
Right.
Because I talk to people, and it's self help isn't like just because everybody into self help, but it's a universal need for a connection, to understand, to hear. What's it like to be able to be homeless, uh, and what did it feel like to be addicted? Was it how what did you see, or how did you feel?
I I felt I was always angry with myself because I battled for addiction for 17 years, but the majority of those years I beat myself up because I figured I was too smart and I knew better, doing the same thing over and over. So I was so defeated at one point. I would pray to God not to wake me up the next day. And I mean, it was the most spiritual, realistic prayer that you could pray. I mean, I actually prayed, seriously, Lord, don't wake me up tomorrow. And it's because I had given up in a way of I just felt like I could never beat the addiction. There was a point in my life where I was clean for 6 months and I came back down on this street here, Auburn Avenue, and relapsed. And I was so upset with myself. A couple hours later, I sat down on the curb and I pulled a knife out and I cut my wrist. I attempted to kill myself. And because I just felt I would never overcome the crack addiction. And it was a voice inside again. Like I say, that voice comes within because the kingdom is within. There was a voice inside to say, call 911. I was put here for a reason. And I dialed 911 and was taken to the hospital and then placed into a psych hospital for 30 days. But the addiction was just hard to control. I felt defeated. I was bullied most of my time as an addict. As a homeless man, I was often ridiculed, jumped on, talked about, laughed at. And so I experienced a lot of that defeat going through the addiction.
Thank you so much for telling me that story. You connect me in a way that I understood. Um, it's not easy when you're there. It wasn't easy. What you saw, right? Did you try to make sense of what happened, like what happened at the moment, or no?
With the addiction,
Yeah,
did I try to make sense of it?
yeah.
Uh, at some points, at points that I live to survive. I say, at one point I was saying, do, and I said, I'm going to support my own habit. Leave me alone, and I lived like that for a while. But as the struggle became worse, I began to feel more defeated, and I didn't know. I still didn't understand why. I always questioned God and said, why won't you deliver me from this? What am I doing wrong? There was a whole lot of aggravation, frustration.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. You said you didn't want to wake up. You hit me home right here, because basically I did not want to wake up to this world. Because back then in 2011, I would break up with my ex, because I told the story so many times, and that I lost a sense of who I am, and I didn't know how long it was going to last, right? And it was so painful that I I wanted to die, like to kill myself. But I went to like they call it the dark night of the soul, where you spiritually awake of how this world is. But I would sleep. I would go to sleep, and I don't want to wake up because the dream is much more better. It make you feel better than the reality of this world, right? And so you want
I feel you.
I want to escape life, man. Like everything that I like, the moment that I thought I did everything right. Some I listen to people as they get older. They did everything right that society tell them to do. go to school, they get college degrees, but they regret that they didn't do what their heart wants. My channel, my YouTube channel is about inspiring people to live their dream, to be able
Mm.
to because I didn't have a dream. I I I wanted to live a simple life, and you know, so for you, did you had a dream when you were a kid or a child? When you were a child?
Yes, yes. My whole life, I wanted to be a businessman. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. My entrepreneurship started when I was 6 years old. There used to be a time that we could pick up an empty Coke bottle on the ground, those glass Coke bottles, and you could take them back to the gas station and it would give you money for them. And at the age of 6, I saw somebody turn that bottle in, and I said, I know where a lot of those bottles are. So I grabbed my red wagon and went and loaded my wagon with those bottles. And so ever since then, I've been, an entrepreneur or wanting to be a businessman and desiring to be a businessman. Uh, at the age of 12, I found a lot of the self-help books, how to, think and grow rich, the magic of believing. So my mindset has been on wanting to be a successful businessman, entrepreneur. I think it was just part of me. It was always a part of me. Even during the struggle of addiction, I sold snacks out of that wheelchair that I was once in. Once I started walking, I took that same wheelchair and I put a cooler in it, put snacks on it, and I started walking around selling snacks. So yeah, I think what drove me a lot was entrepreneurship. It was always my dream to be in business.
For those who want to be an entrepreneur, what can you give them to be through navigate the business world?
That's a good question. What I want to say, because I picked up on something you shared just a few seconds ago about the desire to escape. And you've been there, I've been there. We didn't want to wake up. We didn't want to face today's challenges. And first, I would say, even before the entrepreneurship is definitely, hopefully you want to do something you love doing. Uh, you just got to know that you're meant for it. You got to own it, and you've got to study for it. But you said something very important. I have conversations with people a lot that desire to have their own clothing store, their own clothing line, uh, their own barbershop, but they also want to escape life. They want to, so when it comes time to escape life, they escape life. So they might go to drugging or whatever it is. But our whole strength and our whole purpose in life comes when we stop escaping. We have to, I'm learning today the difference. Today I don't escape. I just rest. When I feel like I'm overwhelmed, I feel like, life has thrown a lot of stuff at me. I rest. And I don't try to escape, because I think our strength comes with facing that challenge and moving forward, however we may do it, where it's reaching out to God. But the whole thing is to live through it. And so I think it's important for wannabe entrepreneurs that if you need to hold on to your dreams, you got to hold on to your dreams, and you got to stay awake for those dreams. If we keep escaping time, no matter how often we want to escape, time is still moving forward, the best way we can. Just don't give up. Go within, because like I say, the kingdom is within. So go within, connect with God, and move forward.
Right, thank you so much. That was the whole. As I see it, people who do rap, right? You know how, like, because this is what I want to get to my thing is
Uh-huh.
people who it's whether it's rap or artists, right? Entrepreneurs
Right.
are artists and creation. We create things, right? Um,
Right.
but people often, because I notice this, people often say that we need to go for our passions. But the thing is, even if we go at what our passion, we do, because as a business owner, you have certain skill set that you have. But while people can chase their dream, but they also need to get skill set. You have that certain skill set, right?
Right. Right. Uh-huh.
Like, right. So for you as a businessman, how do you develop that skill set
Is
to
that
develop? Sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. Repeat that. I'm sorry. It was breaking up a little bit.
Okay. How do you develop the skill set to operate a business? And because I remember Gary Vee when he was on Larry King, and he was talking about when he after this his interview that he did with Gary Vee. I mean,
Uh-huh.
not Gary Vee, Larry King. He would go out there. He's like a fighter. Is it like when you're a business owner, like problems coming at you all the time, and you? So how do you see that?
You gotta there's I like to look at our mind. There was something I read yesterday that there's two mindsets. There's a fixed mindset and then there's a growth mindset. In business, we are constantly, my wife and I, we're constantly sending each other articles, reading up on the latest technology, meeting with people, and mentors, networking. Those things are so important and nothing beats experience as far as developing a skill set. But there's also mistakes you can make. You can operate. I made a mistake myself. I operated my business a few years, and then I started to learn some crucial lessons. I started to say, you know what, I should have been doing it like this. I should have did this, which I call those healthy mistakes because you're still moving forward, but you're finding better ways of doing things. So those are healthy mistakes, but you've got to be, if it's something you want to do, even when it comes, you tell your artist, even if it's a hip hop artist, if that's going to be your dream, if that's going to be your business, then you need to know about publishing. You need to know what what publishing does, what it does. You need to know about copyright. And in those downtimes when nobody's asking you to perform, nobody's asking you to, come be on the radio, study what you do. This is your dream. This is something you want to do. So learn as much as you can about what you want to do. And that there to me builds passion. That's what my wife and I, we work what maybe 80 something hours a week. We work hard at that business. Also, you got to work hard. I can't think of too many, you got to work hard. So we work hard, but we're working even harder on learning because,
Okay.
thank you.
What do you think about education, the state of it? What was your education was like when you were a child?
I like school. My mom was a valedictorian. So mom was she was hard on us. We had to do good in school. We didn't, if we got C's, we were on punishment. So we had to pay attention in school. We had to study, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I was into music, and I played the trombone. I played the string bass. I was exposed to classical music. So I had um, uh, a well-rounded life as a child.
Wow.
Yeah,
Are you into like, are you into jazz?
yeah, all of it. I love all types of music, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For people who want to do their dream, how do they get over? Well, how do because I'm gonna ask you, do you ever have that feeling of fear? And if you do have that feeling of fear, what do you do with that fear? Because my message, is like people are so fearful, but they let their fear control their life instead of they, move toward that fear. So what's your method?
Yeah, that's fear can paralyze, and fear can rob you of your dreams if you're not careful. Um, there's good and bad types of fear in every case. Sometimes um, fear can cause you to use more judgment or do more research. But a lot of times the fear of failure keeps people back. And so something, kind of ask themselves, why am I afraid? What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? And then, you know what? I'm afraid that if I go into business, I'll lose all my money. And then if you go to that part and say, well, you know what? If I lose all my money, then what? Then I have to give up my car, But then, you face each one of those obstacles and deal with it and say, then what? Then what? And then you'll find out that what you're afraid of is pretty much nothing. And so we just have to. One thing I can tell you about fear is that our Creator haven't given us a spirit of fear. It's one of my main scriptures that I like to say, God haven't given us a spirit of fear. So, I just tell people that, I tell you what's most important. I just don't see how a person could live their dreams or that they can achieve their dreams without a spiritual foundation. If I want to leave anything, I can say a lot, I can talk a lot, but what I want to most importantly convey to a person is that get that spiritual foundation. And then all these other issues that arise, fear, hurt, all these other emotions, you have assistance. You have God right there walking with you, and then you can deal with that. But the spirit has to come first. You've got to have that foundation. And when you step out there, whether it's in business, whether it's in a career, whatever it may be, sports, I don't think you can go. I don't think you can do anything without the spirit. So for the most part, I just want to encourage people to have that foundation.
Right. Thank you for that. For one. Two, I noticed something very uniquely interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, too many of the people in this world, they disconnect with the God within them, or they disconnect because they make God too high, right? And they feel like it's far out reach, but it's right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said. But I noticed something very interesting because I'm into, I interview kung fu artists, different type of experts, but they have a sense of spiritual essence in it. And then I also read on alchemy. They have the physical, of course, right? We all have the physical. They have the
Right.
mental and the spiritual. They have all the three component together. It's the same thing as you see martial arts. Like you said, you need the spiritual component. Without that, you're missing. It's like when people do martial arts, they only do it for the physical aspect, but then they don't do it for the spiritual. But I see it as a whole, like all three levels working together. You're so right for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
For you, how you define winning for you?
How do I find winning?
Yeah.
To me,
Sorry, go ahead.
I define winning as walking in my purpose and making a difference in people's lives. I can't say I've always defined winning as that. When I was younger, I thought winning was having $1 million by 30 and $1 billion by 40. And that was my definition of winning. But as I've gone through this journey, my winning today is helping others to win. That makes me feel complete when I'm walking in my purpose.
You're saying contribution to humanity.
Right.
Um,
I,
sorry.
yeah, I believe it. Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead. You said you believe in.
Yeah, not. I believe that as we were wired to be contributors. I think we were created that way. We were created to serve. So I think the whole key to winning is involved in serving, which involves your purpose. So we go against the grain, and we face a lot of pain going against the grain. But the key to winning is walking in your purpose and giving back.
Right. For that. You, because I was. When was your defining moment to find your purpose in life. How did it become this to serve others? What is this need, the drive? Where did it come from, and the purpose? What is that defining moment?
I, I like to say that I discovered my purpose after I was clean for about a year. I always wanted to help people. I found an old newspaper article where I talked about I wanted to make the community a better place, and I've always wanted to do good in the world. But I felt like I discovered my purpose about after I was clean for a year. I rode around on this bicycle and I sold my snacks in the neighborhood. But I was in a Walmart and I was walking around looking for a basket to put on the bike. And I like to say my purpose came to me at that moment. I chose yellow duct tape, this bright yellow duct tape. And I said, I'm going to cover and at that point, I felt that I was in my purpose. And I started growing from there. And that ever since then, I've been driven, I've been determined, I've been compassionate and loving and all of that.
Right. How as a business owner, how can you make the customer experience much more better?
Um, well, I guess one of the main things you can do is listen. Listen to what your customers are asking for. Um, take suggestions. And try to fill their need. So what we do here is we listen to them and we speak. We connect. You said something earlier about connecting, and I guess the best experience is a customer that feels connected to the business. So we have a great relationship with our customers. We know what brand they like, what's their cigarette brand, what's their their flavored tea, and then we know about their kids, their grandkids, and it's just conversation. It's just, I guess the best way to connect with your customers is to love your customers.
Right. Thank you. Listening to you, that's so right. You have to be able to listen to what their needs or what their wants or interests is. Right. So many
Right.
often time we don't listen and hear what their needs are. So and then oftentimes we push our message onto them. Right. But that's not what they want. Right. And we cannot connect them or relate them to that way. Because I understand people a little bit, but not as much. That's why I do interviews. Um, for how what is your when you create your book, what is your writing process? And for anyone who wants to become an author, what's your writing process?
Well, my first book was the Book of Benjamin. I have it here, and what I did with this tells my story. So this was pretty easy for me because although it took about a year, I just wrote a little bit at a time. I started from birth, what I remembered about my childhood, going on into my college years and so forth, and then a lot of the things about addiction. So if it's a book based on your life and your story, it should be a little easy. You just write as a little bit at a time, as much as you can, and you just keep going. Just keep doing it. And for any other topics, I would just suggest that they research, and know the topic. But the main thing is just to write. You won't get anything done if you don't write. So believe me, it took a lot of days before I sat down and wrote one sentence. Before I wrote it, my wife used to get on me a lot about, when are you gonna work on your book? When are you gonna work on your book? But we finally got it done.
Oh, okay, that's so nice. Thank you for writing. What make you choose?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What make you want to? What make you write your story instead of any other?
I feel that this story would be used to inspire a lot of people, especially people that were struggling and people were going through. And also, this story brings more confirmation to what it's like having a relationship with God. That's why I titled the book of Benjamin. You know, it's like I took that out of it's like one of the books in the Bible, the book of Job, the book of Esther. You know, I titled the book of Benjamin because it was my journey, my spiritual journey. You know, and my God and my conversations with God away. You know, and what the book shows is a regular person having a regular conversation, but it shows a regular person, no matter what he went through, still believing that God is this and that God was in control. So, you know, so that was my main purpose.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Two more. What does success look like to you? It changed, right, when you were little and till now, right?
Right. So yeah, success has been redefined for me. As I was younger, success to me was material, status, you know, cars, you know, big house. And today I don't even want a big house. You know, today success is more of becoming more what God wants me to be. And to me, that defines success for me in life.
Thank you so much. Amazing human being. Thank you for being on this planet. Thank you for staying alive for us. You could have, went the other way. You know, I love it. Like, there's so many, like, the story can help so many people through what you've been through because they've been through it, and I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's no problem. And where can we find you on online, or where can we find you?
The easiest way to find me is just to you can go at Google and you can just type in BigmouthBen, BigmouthBen, one word, and everything will come up. Music, videos, links to the book, links to the website, the address to the store's website. So the easiest way to reach me is just Google BigmouthBen.
Oh yeah, I forget.
And social media is BigmouthBen as well.
Okay, thank you. And you have Twitter too, because I checked it.
Right.
That's what I was gonna ask. One question for this one. Why do they, or how did you get this BigmouthBen? What is this? Like, why? How, I would like to know that one.
All right. 1 second. Hold on. If I can show you, there's a picture that this here is a wheelchair. That was the wheelchair I used to be in. And when I started walking, that's me standing beside the wheelchair. When I started walking again, I took that wheelchair and I put a cooler in the chair and I started walking around selling snacks. And so I gave myself the name BigmouthBen because I was advertising for people. I say, well, I'm walking around all day. Let me advertise for people. So I said, BigmouthBen, if you want to sell it, let me tell it. And people will put their flyers on the wheelchair and advertise. So the name BigmouthBen came from the wheelchair and it's been with us ever since.
Oh,
and I want to say something very important before we leave. And a lot of times people, they watch an interview and, it seems like that guy did so much, that he made it through a lot of stuff and he just turned it all around and now he's successful. But it's not just me. It's always, I give God the credit, but even aside that, God has blessed me with reuniting with my college sweetheart. And she's been very instrumental. I couldn't have done none of this without her. So it's always important to have someone in your life that you are connected with that believes in what you believe in and that can help you along with your journey. So that's very key to it. They got to be the right person. So, you know, I like to say soulmate, but definitely a soulmate will help you in your journey. And so I definitely want to give a shout out to my lovely wife, all right, Tanya Graham.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Before I had a thing, but I just had it, but now it's
Oh,
gone. Um,
oh,
so for it was there, but I can't remember. I'm trying to jog my memory because you were speaking so beautifully, and
oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, that's okay. No, 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 that's okay. You speak good, but I want because you were talking about the interview, right? Also, so
Uh-huh.
many people uh listen to the interview, right? And I wanted them to watch the interview, but not just watch it, but take action on their dreams. That's why I do interview in the first place, right?
Right, right, right.
I used to be consume the content, but I never took. I took a little bit of action, but not too much action because it's based upon fear, right? So, and also one more, because I want to understand for those people who are homeless, how can they get out of that situation of homelessness?
Hmm. That's a great question. First, what's really important if a person's homeless is, um, you know, the source of the homelessness. Or am I homeless because of addiction? Am I homeless because of a mental illness? Am I homeless because of lack of employment? Those are reasons. You know, you have to. A person has a first um, their reason for being homeless, and that person would know. You know, a lot of times, you know, and then that person has to know. There's a lot of resources. And I think the best thing for anybody right now that's experienced homelessness is to have hope, you know, and that they can change. And that's one of the reasons why I do a lot of speaking, because and I speak at shelters, I speak at treatment centers, um, you know, I go to meetings and share, is because I want to give hope. You know, I think a lot of times my reason for homelessness and a lot of other people is a lot of hopelessness. You know, we have to have hope and move forward, and whatever resources are available, just pursue those resources and pursue treatment. If it's an addiction, you know, go into treatment. Just know that I'll tell you what turned it around for me. And if I could share this, that may help someone else. Just know that no matter what you're going through, that there's something better there that you deserve, that you wasn't created to just have to be where you're at. You know, there's always more to life that you know that, and if you want it, you can go after it. You know, you don't have to remain uh, in a state of hopelessness. You know, so anybody that's struggling, I like to just encourage you to never give up and keep going.
That is so profound. Thank you. Um,
Thank you.
you're welcome. For you as a speaker, because I know you keep talking about speaking, how does it feel to be a speaker and how do you develop the skills to speak?
You know, I don't know. I still criticize myself a lot. I still want to study the perfect, you know, take the perfect class and be this, but I found that I do better when I just be myself and tell my story and make that connection that we talked about earlier. I think that the key to being a good speaker is connecting with people. You don't have to be that high pitched man that just, you know, and throwing your hands all over. You just have to connect with the people. And so it's very important to connect. And I think that's the key to being a great speaker. Now, developing skill set, that's also true. You know, you got to practice, you know, read up on it, watch videos, study other speakers, you know. So there's always a skill set. Anything you want to do, you're going to need a skill set. So, but for the most part, connect with people, tell your story, uplift people.
Right. Thank you. For my I yeah,
Okay.
yeah. One of the person who impacted my life with motivational stuff is Les Brown. You know Les Brown?
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah. That was one of my first tapes I listened to.
Which tape did you listen to for Les Brown? That's
Oh,
what I'm.
it's a lot of them. I've been I don't even know the certain titles of one. I just listen to them all the time. You know, the stories about the radio stations, the story about the apple pie, and he just the whole point. Les Brown connected with a lot of people, and he has helped a lot of people. Including myself. And even I connected with Les Brown and before my addiction. When I went through my addiction, I didn't listen much, but as I turned it around, I connected even more.
Right. My life. The message giving. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for the time that you have given us.
yeah,
You're a pleasure, man. You're an amazing person. Thank you for doing what you do and keep up the great work. We need you in this world, right? Thank you for being a light. I'm grateful for that. Okay, guys, subscribe to my channel, like my video, and I'll see you guys next time.